Hello everyone, my name is Blair Cinta and this is Sticks and Wires. Today I'm going to explore miking the shell of your snare drum as an option. I was pretty intrigued by this idea a few years back, tried it a few times and decided I wasn't really into it. But, you know, I've talked to some friends recently that do it, so I thought I'd give it another shot and just see what, you know, if this is a worthy option to explore. And of course, with anything in recording, I think sometimes when you revisit it, learn something about it, you come away with it and think like, okay, well, this is a great option for certain things. And that's what I'm thinking now. Okay, so let's just check out. I'm just going to start with the shell of the snare. So there's a lot of ways I could have done this. I could have done it with various snare drums, various tunings. What I decided to do was just use my Supraphonic 6.5, and I did it wide open and dampened. And then we can get an idea of kind of how it sounds in both those scenarios. And of course, you know, there's going to be big variations between wood versus metal snares, the size of the snare, tonality, things like that. But hopefully this will give you a handle on whether it's a good option for certain tunes and things that you may be working on. All right, so here it is wide open. We'll just check the shell of the snare itself. Obviously not a great sound on its own. You can hear it's kind of barky, almost a distorted tone. And there's it's kind of clangy. So I tried to record the bottom snare, top snare, and shell as much to an equal volume as we can. So what I'm gonna do is just play the snare mics, top, shell, and bottom soloed together, and just show you some different combinations of these things. And all the EQ is flat right now between these mics. So as you can hear, it's adding a lot of character to the drum. It's a very unique tone, and you know, in my opinion, not something I would use all the time, but I can hear the attack and that kind of crispy mid-range that it's adding if you need it. Let's mess with the EQ a little here. We'll just solo the shell. I already am high passing this a bit. There's a lot of, here, I'll take this off. You'll hear a lot of kick bleed and hi-hat bleed in this snare shell mic. Again, you can hear, it's a very certain area where it's it's finding the sound. I think it's kind of cool here around 700 when you boost this. What I'll do is I'll put all three mics in and I'll boost around 700, and I think it's kind of a cool crappy sound. All right, so it definitely adds some honk, almost some distortion. It's definitely adding a lot of character to this particular sound. Again, I think it's pretty specific. I'll stop saying that, though. You get it. Interesting. I also noticed that when you pull out these kind of mid-range frequencies, it kind of nullifies the effect of the shell sound. So... typically what I do a lot on the top snare is pull a lot of these mid-range tones out that are kind of ugly, but in particular, at least with this drum and how I'm miking it, it seems to kind of like be pointless when you pull those frequencies out. So it's almost like if you're going to use it, keep it flat or boost it for the full effect. All right, I'm just going to leave this flat. And we'll keep the miking minimal. So mono overhead, kick in, kick out. The 3 snare mics and the hi-hat mic are all soloed, and I will pull in and out the snare shell mic so we can hear the effect it's having, and I might even play with the EQ in here. All right, so you can hear it's definitely adding a thing, especially when you get a mix going with a heavy mix, maybe heavy guitars and heavy keyboards. I can see this being super helpful to achieve a certain tonality. Okay, so that's the open sounding. That's with the drum wide open. Let's just move to with it dead, and we'll go through the same process. Let me make sure this is flat here. I'm going to leave the high pass on. We're going to go through the same process. We'll listen to the shell, and I'll do this a little faster. All the top and bottom snare. We'll go from there. All right, same thing. It's effective in very certain ways. Not, in my opinion, it's not as effective as when the drum is wide open. But just to repeat myself, it's definitely bringing a certain character from this drum out. Let's do some of the similar EQ things with it being dead. right, so this is a more muffled. Sorry for the double entendre, but a more muffled, muted version of the sound, and yeah, interesting. Let's do the full kit. We'll go through some of the same EQ motions. All right, so mono overhead, kick out, kick in, snare top, snare shell, snare bottom, and hi-hat. Not much else to explain except to repeat myself. Bringing some character, some different character. It adds some snap. It's interesting. Okay, last thing. And I think I'll just do this demonstration with the wide open snare here. And that is adding some distortion or some decapitator to just the snare shell. And this is where I think it can get really cool because we're trying to enhance that kind of almost distorted, crunchy area that the snare shell is pushing forward with the mic. Okay, that I think is pretty cool. Some distortion on there. Kind of gives me like a Chili Peppers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chad. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Chad Smith. Kind of gives me like a Chad Smith feeling with that. Really accentuates the ring. So, conclusions. I think if you got the mics, if you got enough channels, this could be a cool option. I think maybe, when I really think hard, when I tried this in the past, I think maybe I replaced the snare shell mic replaced the snare top mic with the shell mic, thinking like, oh, this would be cool, and it ended up being thin. Obviously, you could use the shell as an effect by itself, but blending it in like this with a certain thing, that's pretty cool, and that's pretty effective. I've been digging distortion on my snares, just very light distortion, more and more that you can bring in and out. Decapitator is great for that. All right, so mic and the snare shell. There we go. We got something new. We got a new thing to play with for certain sounds. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Take care. See you soon.